Good afternoon, everyone. We have so many different meetings going on down here this afternoon that we have two members that are in another meeting. They'll be catching up with us, but I think we are going to get started without them. The order of business this afternoon, we have Coppin State first, Salisbury, then Accountability and Implementation Board, and then the Maryland Higher Education Commission, and then Maryland Department of Education, funding for educational organizations. So we can start first with Coppin. Micah Richards is the budget analyst, and Dr. Anthony L. Jenkins, president, be ready to come up after the analyst. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Micah Richards. Today, I want to thank the Madam Chair Committee and the citizens of the great state of Maryland for allowing me to speak before you today. I am presenting Coppin State University Fiscal 27 Budget Analysis. Starting on page 1, the Fiscal 27 budget increases by 5.3% to $134 million. On page 4, Exhibit 1, FAR 25 undergraduate enrollment increased by 30.7% compared to FAR 24 due to a marketing campaign focused on the resources and opportunities that are offered to students. On page 5, Exhibit 2, the number of applications submitted to Coppin State had a significant increase of 98% in FAR 25 compared to FAR 24. Therefore, DLS requests for Coppin State to discuss their efforts or changes in the application process that contributed to the substantial increase in applications. On page 6, Exhibit 3, the second-year retention rate increased by 6 percentage points for the 24 cohort compared to the 23 cohort. The third-year retention rate decreased by 4 percentage points for the 23 cohort compared to the 22 cohort. DLS requests for Coppin State to discuss their efforts to increase the third-year retention rate. On page 7, Exhibit 4, the 4-year graduation rate increased by 4 percentage points for the 21 cohort compared to the 20 cohort. The 6-year graduation rate decreased by 5 percentage points for the 19 cohort compared to the 18 cohort. DLS requests for Coppin State to discuss the steps they are taking to support these students so their 6-year graduation rate far exceeds recent levels. On page 8, Exhibit 5, for the 2016 through 2017 academic year, the full-time transfer students with no Pell Grants had the highest 8-year graduation rate at 57%. On page 9, Exhibit 6, in fiscal 24, the average net price was 61.8% lower than the cost of attendance for a full-time first-time student. On page 10, Exhibit 7, in fiscal 25 compared to fiscal 24, the institutional aid increased by 16.7% due to enrollment, and 53.9% of the aid was for merit scholarships due to Coppin State's strategy to recognize scholars who excel academically to encourage the student body to focus not just on graduating, but also on academic success. On page 12, Coppin State had 2 federal grants canceled that totaled $3.2 million. On page 14, Exhibit 10, the state operating funds increased by 1.2% in fiscal 27 compared to fiscal 26. Around $208,000 was swapped from the general fund to the special fund for the Higher Education Investment Fund due to the tax provisions in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. The fiscal 27 allowance includes $9 million for the 5th year of funding under Chapter 41 HBCU settlement. On page 16, Exhibit 11, Coppin State anticipates over $116 million in unrestricted revenues in fiscal 27. On page 17, as of December 31st, 2025, Coppin State has 70 vacancies. Therefore, DLS requests for Coppin State to discuss their efforts to fill the vacant positions. On page 18, Exhibit 12, Coppin State's total enrollment increased by 26.2% for FAR 25 compared to FAR 24 due to their investment in resources, including the Eagle Achievement Center that provides support to students from orientation through graduation. On page 19, Exhibit 13, DLS requests for Coppin State to discuss their efforts to ensure that revenue exceeds the expenditure in fiscal 26 and 27 since the expenditure exceeded the revenue in fiscal 25 by $1.9 million. On page 20, Exhibit 14, state funds spent per full-time equivalent students decreased by 3.6% in fiscal 27 allowance compared to the fiscal 26 appropriation due to a decrease in state funding in fiscal 26 and enrollment increases outpacing growth in state funds. On page 21, DLS requests for Coppin State to concur with the governor's allowance. This concludes my presentation, and I thank you to Coppin State for your service and collaboration. I'm available for any questions.
Great job. I always enjoy your presentations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Jenkins, you want to come up? Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me start off by saying good afternoon to you, Madam Chair, to the distinguished members of the committee.
Can you speak into the microphone there, please?
Thank you.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, distinguished members of the committee. Thank you for this opportunity to testify regarding the incredible progress that we are making at Coppin State University. I greatly appreciate your support of Coppin State, and we value the relationship that we have developed with our legislative leaders to advance the mutual priorities that we have. I would also like to thank Mr. Richards, our analyst, for his analysis, a report that was well drafted, so thank you. I also want to acknowledge and thank my administration, my faculty, my staff, students, and alums for the amazing work that they've done over the last 5 years. You know, just as we envisioned 5 years ago as one, we have made post-COVID-19 has given rise to a university that is more unified, more innovative, and more driven. And the facts are these, that during the last 5 years of uncertainty at the state and national level, we at Coppin State University have never forgotten or lost focus on who we are, our mission, our purpose, and the promise that we stand on for now over 125 years. Our role as a public university has never been more important. It's universities like Coppin State who are crucial in helping to develop a strong functioning society. It is universities like Coppin State University who embrace the responsibility to educate students from all socioeconomic backgrounds, regardless of their household income and zip code. We have an unwavering commitment to improving the human condition. Students we educate receive a significant return on their investment. The median salary for our graduates 1 year after graduation exceeds any total loan debt incurred while at Coppin State University. And for those students who do incur loan debt, it is far below the national average. This positions our students to begin their post-Coppin life with less concerns about their financial status. As leaders in both their respective fields, our faculty and staff, they continue to earn national and state recognition for research, leadership, and community engagement. Not only are our faculty and staff being appointed to state commissions, but they're also being elected as chairs and presidents of national organizations. And when they're not doing that, they are leaning in and leaning in important work like helping to strengthen the semiconductor workforce, addressing youth and gun violence, advancing microplastic innovations, driving new possibilities for renewable energy, and designing classrooms for the future that will help enhance and improve teaching, learning, and student engagement. And thanks to their commitment to research and innovation, since 2021, we have increased our external grants and contracts by more than 1,200%. This is a record for the university. And this productivity keeps us on track to achieve the Carnegie Classification Research University designation by 2028. Our work extends far beyond our beautiful campus. As an anchor institution, our leadership in revitalizing West Baltimore is unmatched. With the creation of the West North Avenue Development Authority, Coppin State University became the first HBCU in the nation to lead the revitalization of a major corridor in a major U.S. city. We are designing and implementing a quality of life ecosystem that elevates and fosters economic development, and also areas such as improving healthcare, education, housing, safety, and transportation. And our work is being noticed, and it's making a significant difference. The act of confidence in Coppin State by the state of Maryland validates our role as a leader in urban higher education. And for more than a decade or two, West Baltimore has struggled with food insecurity, eventually becoming a food desert. Through the Seed Community Developed Anchor Institution Fund, Coppin State secured nearly $1 million to help bring to fruition the new Mill on North food court. The court is a community space which houses 8 restaurants, providing more food options for the surrounding community. And while the Mill on North is a great step in the right direction, obviously there is more work to be. Nest Initiative, an initiative designed to increase home ownership, to strengthen neighborhoods, produce stability, and help close the wealth gap in Baltimore City. Coppin State University's transformational $50,000 down payment assistance has helped 6 faculty and staff turn their dreams of home ownership into reality. We are extremely proud of our work in the community, as it is an essential part of our mission and our purpose. However, as president, it is the transformational work that we're doing with our students that I'm the most proudest. In 2020, when I arrived at Coppin, I coined the phrase that Coppin State is where scholars and champions are made. Last year, 91 or 61% of our student athletes earned a 3.0 GPA or higher, with 30 student athletes earning a perfect 4.0. In that same time span, 3 of the last 4 years, Coppin State University has led the MEAC with the highest student-athlete graduation rate at 81%. Also during that period, we won 3 MEAC conference championships. Clearly, our students are excelling in the classroom and on the field of competition. And at a time when some are questioning the value and the rising cost of a college education, Maryland's most affordable 4-year college or university is continuing to put a college education in reach of any student who wants one. Coppin State has continued to affirm its position as a university of choice. In fall 2025, the university enrolled an entering cohort of 1,027 students and recorded an overall enrollment of over 2,700 students, growing 29.6% in 1 year and over 8% growth annually since 2021. This exceeds the national average of 3% annually during that same time frame. This is Coppin State's highest headcount since 2016. And our fall 25 cohort was our largest in over 25 years. Students are coming to learn, live, and grow in West Baltimore, not only from across Charm City, but as far away as California and several international destinations. Over 80% of our student population are from Maryland. And upon graduation, over 83% of our students remain in Maryland, with 45% remaining in Baltimore City. In 2021, I put together a task force to develop strategies aimed at increasing our Hispanic and Latinx student population. I am pleased to report that Hispanic and Latinx students have found a welcoming and nurturing home at Coppin State University, one that fosters academic excellence, embraces their culture, and builds their personal self-efficacy. Kayleen Perez became our first Hispanic Latinx Miss Coppin State University. Today, she's been admitted to Johns Hopkins for graduate school. Melanie Morales became our first Hispanic Latinx Student Government Association president. She is teaching in Baltimore City Public Schools and is applying for graduate school for the fall. Ashley Roman, star volleyball player, started our first Hispanic Latinx student organization, and it is thriving on our campus. She has been admitted to Maryland School of Dentistry. Over 10% of our presidential scholars self-identify as Hispanic or Latinx. Latinx and Hispanic students make up 5% of Coppin State's total population. Now that's up from 1% just 3 years ago. Their retention rate stands at 70%, and their grade point average is 3.0, exceeding the national average in both those categories. On our work around male enrollment, multifaceted impacts. It includes reduced lifetime earnings, higher unemployment, increased depression, and a widening educational gap, just to speak of a few. And while many colleges and universities across the nation and the state have seen double-digit declines in their male enrollments, at Coppin State University, we have increased our male enrollment by more than 52% since 2021. This accomplishment has made Coppin State University Maryland's #1 HBCU for male enrollment growth. In addition, our males are retained at a rate of 74%, exceeding the national average of 55%. We believe our work can serve as a model for other colleges and universities to replicate. That said, to study this work and the impact, we are looking to establish an Institute for Male Development and Achievement on our campus. The rate of growth, increase in retention, the high demand for the Coppin State experience has also presented us with a housing challenge. Currently, over 800 students reside off campus due to insufficient housing on our campus. The number of off-campus students, based on our 2000 Fall 26 projections, are likely to balloon to 1,200 students living off campus. For us, this poses a serious safety concern. The off-campus partnerships that we have do not provide university police or safety officers for our students. So therefore, a part of our goal at Coppin is to extend our university police department and to provide public safety at these off-campus sites. The strategies and actions that we continue to take improve the success and retention of our students, and is paying dividends. In just 4 years, we have increased our overall retention from 57% when I arrived to 75% today. This is a record for our university. We at Coppin are committed to making sure that we also put greater emphasis on graduating more students. But we are also aware that the changing landscape in higher education plays a part in that also. The profile of the Coppin State University student is diverse, consisting of a high percentage of first-generation college students. We educate the highest percentage of Pell-eligible students of any four-year college or university in the state. Our high number of adult learners. We also have a significant number of high academic achievers. And we have those students that require some additional wraparound support services. But regardless of a student's academic preparation, we are committed to getting them over the finish line. We see more students coming to us with dual enrolled credits that they enter the university at the sophomore level. These students are in a position.
Dr. Jenkins, I
Yes,
hate to
ma'am.
do this to you, but I've got 4 groups after you here this afternoon, And if you could just
I will wrap it
a little
up
bit. I'm
right
sorry.
now. Nope,
Thank you.
I completely understand. So we understand that the impact of our campus has on Baltimore City and on the great state of Maryland. With the high retention rate, with the growth in our male students, with the growth in our overall head count, the trajectory of Coppin State University clearly is on the rise and is in a historic place that the university has not seen in some time. So, Madam Chair and members of the committee, I am respectfully requesting support to increase security on our campus, to meet the growing needs of our male students and the retention rates of our institution, and therefore requesting $2.7 million in operational funds to help us achieve those goals. We believe that it is important for Coppin to not only continue these historic efforts that we have achieved, but we're also looking to move Coppin into the artificial intelligence space. And it is important that HBCUs be a part of crafting the narrative around AI so that it is ethical, more just, and complete with the narrative of not only what AI can do, but what we should be asking it to do and who it is being built for. Madam Chair, with that, I will conclude my report and I will answer any questions as appropriate.
Thank you. I love your enthusiasm and happy to hear all that's going on there anyway. Okay, Sarah Bailey, any questions?
That covered it.
Yep. I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next we have Salisbury University. Sarah Baker is the analyst, and Dr. Carolyn Ringer-Lepre is the president. Come on up, sure. The analyst will do the report first.
Okay, I'm going to start with Exhibit 1 on page 4, which shows the trends in first-time applications. And after declining during the pandemic, applications have grown 15.2% to almost 800,000 in fall 25, and this resulted in the largest entering class of 1,470 students in 25. Exhibit 2 on page 5 shows the trend in fall undergraduate enrollment, which grew for a second year, increasing 3% or 189 students to 6,477, with continuing students accounting for 42% of this increase. And this is the first increase in continuing students since fall 2015. While the number of transfer students decreased to 509 is well below 2014 when transfers totaled 997. And this decrease may be partly attributed to the continual decline in community college enrollments. However, the increase of 18 transfer students in 25 may be due to recent increases in enrollment at the community colleges. Exhibit 3 on page 7 shows the retention rates. And the second and third year rates fell to their lowest level of 77 and 61% with the 22 cohort, which reflects the impact the pandemic had on students returning to campus. And while the second rate has returned to the pre-pandemic level, the third year rate is still below that of the 2019 cohort. However, since these rates tend to mirror each other, it's expected the third year rate for the 25 cohort will improve. Exhibit 4 on page 8 shows the 6-year graduation rates. In general, the rates started declining with the 2017 cohorts and dropped to its lowest level with the 2020 cohorts, which was the first cohort to be impacted by the pandemic. Exhibit 5 on page 9 shows spending on institutional aid, and as you know, that is a key factor to improving student success. Overall, spending increased $6.1 million between 2020 and 25 to $17.9 million. And most of this increase of $5.1 million occurred from 22 to 25, and most of it went towards scholarship. In 2020, 15.7% of expenditures went towards need-based aids, and since then it has declined to 10.3%. This decrease runs counter to the Regent's instructions that institutions use a portion of the increases in tuition revenues for need-based aid in order to offset tuition increases to those students with the highest financial need, thereby holding them harmless. We ask the President to comment on the decline in the amount of institutional aid going to need-based aid. As shown on Exhibit 6 on page 10, students receiving aid graduate at the highest rate than those who don't. And I would note overall transfer students graduate at a higher rate than full-time students. As previously mentioned, the 2020 cohort was the first impacted by the pandemic, and it seems to have really affected the first-time students who did not receive aid, whose graduation dropped to 39%. And the rate for full-time students who received aid fell from 71% with the 2019 cohort to the 62% with the 2020 cohort. We asked the president to comment on factors that led to the worsening of the graduation rate of the 2020 cohort for full-time students receiving and not receiving aid, and why transfer students graduated at a higher rate in efforts to ensure the success of full-time students. So the decline in enrollment over the years, along with the impact of the pandemic, can be seen in the number of degrees awarded as shown on Exhibit 7 on page 11. Salisbury awarded the highest number of degrees of over 1,900 in 2020, since fall by 531 degrees by 25. I do know, however, the number of health profession degrees conferred had reached its highest level of 141 in 25. Discussion on the budget starts on page 12. And in 26, Salisbury faced a $5.1 million reduction to the appropriation, which was mainly met by eliminating 20 vacant positions and reducing spending on facility renewals compared to the spending in 25. Turning to the cancellation of federal awards as shown on Exhibit 8 on page 13, as of November last year, 4 awards were canceled, resulting in the loss of about $479,000, and 1 award from the Department of Education accounted for $342,000 of the loss. Turning to Exhibit 9 on page 14 shows expenditures of unrestricted funds by program area in 24 and 25 and 26. Education and general expenditures decreased 3.4% or $6.4 million, and this is mainly due to a $13.9 million decrease in operations and maintenance of plants related to one-time expenditures in 25 for renovation projects and replacement of the kitchen exhaust hood systems in the Commons building. That was partly offset by $2.7 million increase in spending and instruction related to general salary increases and hiring additional faculty for summer and winter term courses based on increased course offerings. However, education and general expenditures in 25 and 26 exceeded revenues, and as shown on Exhibit 10 on page 15, except for 21, expenditures have increasingly exceeded revenues. These shortfalls were covered by surpluses in auxiliary enterprises, which are self-supporting programs that rely on charges to students and faculty to cover expenses. While institutions use auxiliary surpluses to cover shortfall in academic enterprise, it's not a sustainable model of the long term, for it relies on increasing enrollment and/or charges for services. These increasingly larger deficits raise concern about why revenues and expenditures have not been better aligned, and if students are being overcharged or spending in auxiliary is being reduced to cover the E&G shortfall. We asked the president to comment on the reliance on the relatively high auxiliary surpluses to cover E&G spending in efforts to align expenditures with revenues. Exhibit 11 on page 17 shows the proposed budget. State funding increases 3.3% or $3.1 million. Increases include $2.8 million in statewide costs. That's mainly due to health insurance. $1.4 million in general salary increases that are centrally budgeted in DBM, and over $600,000 for the opening of a new facility. These increases are partly offset by $1.1 million related to an increase in the turnover expectancy. Exhibit 12 on page 18 shows funding per full-time equivalent student, and overall funding per FTS grew 113.3% between 17 and 25 to $15,233. Now, most of this increase occurred between 22 and 24 due to a variety of factors, including general salary increases, restoration of the 21 BPW cost containment actions, and funding for various mandates, coupled with a declining enrollment. The recommendation is on page 20, and that is to concur with the governor's allowance. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Okay, Dr. LaPree, did I pronounce that right?
You did, Madam Chair.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us here today, Senator Bailey. We appreciate the time to speak with you. I am joined by my Vice President for Administration and Finance, Aurora Edenhart-Pepe, and I would like to start by offering our sincere thanks, as always, to Sarah Baker for her excellent analysis of Salisbury University and for coming to our campus. We are always so pleased to welcome you and for you taking the time to be there with us to see our work in real life. Before you, you have our full testimony, and Madam Chair, with your permission, I will skip talking about that.
You've got my permission.
And move directly to just a
Bless you.
few brief comments to the questions that Ms. Baker has presented to us in terms of the questions. Yes.
Thank you.
Is that okay? We've provided much more detailed testimony that has already been written, but let me just briefly comment on the questions. The first request asked me to comment on the decline of the amount of institutional aid going toward need-based aid. What I would emphasize here is that the shift seen isn't a reduction in our commitment to need-based aid. It's largely a result of timing and competitiveness. We award merit scholarships at Salisbury early in a student's senior year, usually September and October when they've applied, so that we can compete for high-achieving students nationally and to strengthen our aid offer early in the process. Need-based aid, by contrast, can't be calculated until federal data is available months later. For instance, those offers were just able to go out last week. So when strong students receive early merit aid, it will reduce their amount of demonstrated need, which shows that their need-based aid amounts would be lessened. At the same time, I would point out that our student need is actually rising. Just for the record, our Pell-eligible first-year student enrollment grew by over 5% this fall, and overall, compared to overall new student undergraduate enrollment, which grew by 2%, and 28% of our undergraduates now receive Pell, which is the highest rate in our history for the second straight year. So it's really about timing. The second question that I've been asked to comment on are the factors that led to the worsening of the graduation rate of the 2020 cohort of full-time students receiving and not receiving aid, why transfers graduate at a higher rate, and efforts to ensure success of full-time students. I'll begin by addressing the graduation rates for our fall 2019 cohort, which is reported as part of fiscal year 20. Like institutions across the country, SU saw declines in both retention and graduation following the onset of COVID-19. And the fall 19 cohort was hit particularly hard because they were just halfway through their first year when the pandemic shut everything down. So two main factors drove those challenges for this particular cohort. First, we had a higher share of Pell students than we had in the past, and Pell students nationally experienced the greatest financial and personal disruptions during COVID-19. Many of our Pell students who didn't graduate also didn't enroll anywhere else, and a large share shifted to two-year colleges. Our out-of-state students, which represented 18% of that cohort, often ended up transferring to public institutions in their home states to be able to take advantage of in-state tuition in those locations. On the other hand, our transfer students have been graduating at higher rates because of the profile of those students have changed. And even though overall transfer enrollment is down, we are creating easier pathways for those that come to us. So we're seeing improvements by making efforts to improve our credit evaluation tools, taking direct action to support all of our students. One initiative I would point out is we launched the Near Completer initiative to try and reach the students that did fall off the radar in 2024, which includes a $1,000 Finish Your Flight award. And within the first year, nearly half of the students who have been reached out to with that offer have either returned or completed their degree.
And what would estimate the number be that came back?
Oh, do you know the number off the top of your head? Madam Chair, I will get that information to you.
Yeah, I'm just curious to see if it really works.
Yes, yes,
Bringing
we'd
them
love
back.
to be able, I know we want to scale it. This was sort of our first attempt with this particular program. In other words, we say to them, we know you had a hard time, come back to us and we'll give you some additional
Sure.
aid to help you complete. We will provide you with that.
Thank you.
With that data, absolutely. Thank you for that question. The last question that I've been asked to comment on is the high reliance on the relatively high auxiliary surpluses to cover E&G and on efforts to align E&G expenditures with revenues. In recent years, we have relied on auxiliary surpluses to offset E&G deficits, but those surpluses are not the result of overcharging students, and we do not see that as a long-term strategy. In fact, what we've found is that the surpluses in fiscal '24 and fiscal '25 appeared larger than they actually were because of an accounting misclassification, where some facility renewal costs should have been shared with auxiliaries and they were charged entirely to E&G. We have corrected this, and once we recalculate that, the auxiliary surpluses actually drop to $7.6 million and $4.4 million respectively in those years, which show that those balances are trending downward, not up, which is what we're hoping for. We agree with Ms. Baker's assessment that relying on auxiliaries is not sustainable, and we are already taking steps to structurally realign our E&G budget by doing things like reducing non-essential travel, tighten technology and operating costs, strengthening our vacancy controls, and aligning resources more closely with enrollment trends. I will close there, and if you have any questions, we're happy to answer them. Thank you.
How many students do you have there this year?
A little more than 7,200.
7,200, that's good. Okay,
Yeah. And we're up about 2% year over year.
great.
Yes.
I'm glad you're there.
I'm glad we're there too.
Senator Bailey, any questions? Okay, you're off the hook.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have the Accountability and Implementation Board. We have Catherine Barber as the budget analyst and Rachel Heiss, the executive director. And I think she brought a superstar with her. Welcome.
Always.
Thank you, Chair King. For the record, my name is Catherine Barber, and I'll be presenting the DLS budget analysis for the Accountability and Implementation Board. AIB was established in Chapter 26 of 2021 as an independent agency responsible for the oversight of blueprint implementation and the evaluation of its outcomes. AIB's fiscal 27 budget totals $3.5 million in blueprint special funds, which is an increase of slightly more than $78,000 or 2.3% from fiscal 26. Exhibit 1 on page 2 shows AIB's fiscal 27 allowance by spending category. $2.8 million of the $3.5 million allowance, or 82%, is for salaries and fringe benefits. Exhibit 2 on page 3 shows the changes from fiscal 26 to 27. The roughly $78,000 increase from the prior year is driven by a $61,000 increase in personnel expenditures, and the remaining growth includes about $14,000 across standard cost allocations and $3,000 increase for consultants to assist with the development of blueprint outcome measures and implementation plan review. Moving on to personnel, on page 4, budgeted turnover increases from 1.59% to 6.26%, which is in line with the agency's current level of vacancies. As of December 31st, 2025, AIB had 1 reported vacancy. The key observation section begins at the bottom of page 4. Key observation 1 provides an update on blueprint implementation and outcomes. As you can see in Exhibit 3 on pages 5 and 6, as of August 2025, AIB had awarded $2.3 million in Phase 1 grants and $4.3 million in Phase 2 grants to provide technical assistance with rolling out the blueprint. Phase 1 grants were awarded as $100,000 grants to 22 LEAs, as well as the Career and Technical Education, or CTE, Committee, to help locals develop a strategy to implement high-priority blueprint goals, such as the career ladder, pre-K expansion, and the development of college and career readiness, or CCR, pathways. LEAs were instructed to expend their Phase 1 grants by the end of calendar 2024, but as of August 2025, approximately 9% of these funds were unspent. For Phase 2 grants, AIB awarded these grants to every LEA, the CTE Committee, and AIB's Technical Assistance Grant Program Strategy Lead to further support implementation efforts. As of August 2025, approximately $2.7 million, or 64%, has been spent, and AIB projected that the remaining $1.6 million would be expended by December 31st, 2025. Because the data in the analysis is from August 2025, there's bold language asking for updates on Phase 1 and Phase 2 expenditures and any changes to the expected timeline for expending or reverting funds. Exhibit 4 on page 7 shows AIB's efforts to disseminate information and provide technical assistance with the blueprint implementation process. In fiscal 25, AIB exceeded its targets for providing technical assistance to LEAs and state agencies and holding public outreach sessions. Exhibit 5 on page 8 shows LEA progress on some of AIB's blueprint outcomes in fiscal 25, which is the second year of data. Goals related to test scores, workforce diversity and retention, and chronic absenteeism appear in the MSDE headquarters and MSDE aid to education analyses. Of the remaining goals, AIB and the LEAs met the targets for pre-K enrollment and the number of schools visited by expert review teams, but they did not meet the targets set for access to high school apprenticeships, access to school-based health centers, or the number of teachers with national board certifications. Key observation 2 begins partway down page 9 and discusses LEA progress on the statutory requirement to pay teachers a minimum salary of $60,000 by July 1st, 2026. Exhibits 6 and 7 on pages 9 and 10 show salary progress overall and by jurisdiction. As of fall 2025, half of LEAs had met the minimum salary requirement. Of the 12 LEAs that remain below the threshold, only Somerset County has a minimum salary below $55,000. Although AIB has been meeting with each LEA to discuss salary progress, several LEAs still indicated that they may not be able to meet the requirement by July 2026. AIB has the authority to withhold funds based on whether an LEA has made sufficient progress on blueprint implementation, but it's not clear what measures will be taken if LEAs miss this particular deadline. There's bold language asking AIB to comment on the actions it plans to take if LEAs do not meet the July deadline for minimum salary increases. On page 12 and 13, DLS is recommending adopting committee narrative requesting a report on blueprint implementation efforts and progress, including measures taken for any LEAs that have failed to meet the salary increase deadline. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Nice job as always. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I'm delighted to be
Mr.
here,
Leggett?
Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm here with our Executive Director, Rachel Heights. I'm not going to go through the full array of testimony, so you know
That gets you
you're
points.
challenging time here as well. But I just want to mention just a couple of points. First of all, the working relationship with MSDE is just outstanding. And Dr. Wright has done an excellent job, and I commend her and her entire staff, and especially the relationship with myself and all of the staff members working with the AIB. I just want to give you just a couple of highlights. Some of the information has been disseminated to individual delegates and senators around the state, but just to show the improvement since 2022-23, 70% increase in 3 to 4-year-olds enrolled in pre-K, 401% increase in teachers earning and maintaining national board certification, 53% increase that represents 10% high school students in dually enrolled students, 150% increase in community schools across the state. Last fall, we conducted a progress monitoring conference with each of the 24 LEAs across the state. And one of the things that was noted, and I think we need to look at this, one, this blueprint is not a one-size-fits-all. We have been as flexible as the law has allowed us to be. One example of that, for example, of the minimum school funding and job policy we have, we decided within our authority to provide a 1-year delay to 2028 to meet that requirement. That's a huge challenge. And one of the challenges mentioned before is the technical assistance. We were originally mandated for $6 million. We've essentially run out of that level of funding. We desperately need the additional $3 million to complete this process because it helps the local jurisdictions to meet the requirements, because this is not an easy matter to follow. The technical assistance is something that is needed. We desperately need to help them so that they can be as responsible as possible to the concerns and demands that we've placed on them. So I'm asking really on behalf of them, because we basically are passed through the resources to help them to respond to others. I'll turn it over to our Executive Director for a comment or two. With that, I also want to thank our new analyst, Ms. Barber. Welcome aboard. We really appreciate the work that you've accomplished so far. And I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Heiss for a word or two. Ms. Heiss?
Thank you. I just want to respond to Ms. Barber's request for comment from the AIB. The first item refers to the Phase 1 and Phase 2 technical assistance expenditures that Chair Leggett was just referring to. We did provide updated data in our testimony on the expenditures, and we are on track to either expend all of the technical assistance grants or revert them to the Blueprint Fund by the end of this fiscal year. We will, as the chair noted, not have any additional funds to provide technical assistance specifically through grants. We will continue to support the LEAs and with our staff and working with MSDE to the greatest extent possible, even without those grant funds. That's part of our job. And then the other item that Ms. Barber asked us to comment on is the minimum salary requirements. So as you know, the Blueprint requires LEAs to provide a minimum salary of $60,000 for every teacher beginning July 1 of 2026. The LEAs have made tremendous progress, and the minimum salary has increased 20% since 2022 from about $49,000 to $59,000 on average across the state. So tremendous progress has been made. Currently, 12 LEAs already meet the minimum requirement and are paying $60,000 or more as a minimum salary. 9 other LEAs have minimum salaries at or above $56,000. There are 3 districts that are below 56, and as Ms. Barber pointed out, Somerset is the lowest. The AIB will require the superintendents to submit an attestation by July 1st that they have met the requirement with documentation, or if they have not met it. They obviously can't attest to it if they have not met it. The law does not provide for a waiver or any type of process. It is required. The AIB does have the authority to essentially not release funds that are automatically withheld each year from the LEAs if sufficient progress is not being made. The board is currently developing the release of funds criteria for this upcoming fiscal year, and will be sharing that information both publicly and with the LEAs so that everyone has that same expectation about what the release of funds will be based on, and we'll be releasing that later this spring. So make sure that you all are aware of those criteria and those decisions. And then finally, the committee narrative that was proposed, we concur with that. We're happy to provide whatever information you all would like.
Madam Chair, let me add one correction. The $3 million that we've not received, we're not asking for all of that in 1 year. I think technically if we get $1 million per year over the next 3 years, it would allow us to provide what I think will be the essential levels of support that they need.
Okay.
So I'm going to make sure we're clear with that.
Sure. Okay. I guess I'm just worried about the Somerset counties and how we expect them to do all this funding. We've got to do some work with them, I guess, to help them along.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. Any comments? You just want to go home. I know you. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have the Maryland Higher Education Commission, Student Financial Assistance. Dave Propert is our budget analyst, and Secretary Sanjay Rai is the representative. You've been around here a lot lately.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Beginning on page 1, funding for student financial assistance increases by 2.6% to $222.2 million after accounting for deficiencies and contingent reductions. Moving to Exhibit 2 on page 10, between the 2024-25 and 2025-26 award cycles, FAFSA filings grew by 8.4%. Exhibit 3 on page 11 shows the estimated percentage of completed FAFSAs in each county's public school system. Exhibit 4 on page 12 shows that Maryland is 8th among the 11 states listed in terms of estimated FAFSA completion percentage among all public high school students. And then continuing to Exhibit 5 on page 14, total GA awards have increased each year since fiscal 2019. However, fiscal 2026 currently has the first decline in initial awards since fiscal 2019. MHEC should discuss why initial awards decreased for the first time since fiscal 2019. Exhibit 6 on page 15 shows that about 97% of GA grant recipients in fiscal 2025 had a student aid index of $0 or less, and the average award for these students was $14,140. Exhibit 7 on page 16 shows that over time, the GA grant has comprised a growing share of total funding in the Educational Excellence Awards, or EEA program, going from 41% in fiscal 2020 to 83% in fiscal 2025, which leaves less funding for EA grants as GA grants receive priority. During an October 2025 commission meeting, MHEC indicated that 5,555 EA renewals were placed on the wait list for fiscal 2026. EA grants are to be renewed automatically if eligible students continue to have demonstrated need. MHEC should discuss the long-term viability of the EA grant, considering the GA grant has comprised a growing share of the total EEA program, and no initial EA awards have been made in the past 2 fiscal years. MHEC should also discuss why individuals who should have received renewal awards were waitlisted, given that EA awards are to be automatically renewed if individuals meet credit requirements and continue to demonstrate need. Exhibit 8 on page 17 shows that about 65% of students receiving an EA award in fiscal 2025 had a student aid index of $0 or less. Moving to Exhibit 9 on page 18, committee narrative in the 2025 Joint Chairman's Report requested that MHEC submit a report on the EEA program, which was to include details on awards by month, timelines for notification and acceptance of awards, and total recipients and awards by program. Most of the awards are made in the spring and summer prior to the fall semester. As shown in Exhibit 10 on page 19, EA renewals comprise just 17.5% of payments, but account for 62.5% of EEA recipients. Conversely, initial and renewal GA awards make up 79.4% of payments, but only 36.3% of the recipients. This discrepancy is due to the differing functions of EA versus GA grants, as GA grants provide full tuition and mandatory fees to the highest financial need students, while EA grants provide partial tuition support to students with financial need that does not quite rise to the same level. And MHEC has not awarded initial EA grants in each of the last 2 fiscal years due to the amount of funding needed for the GA awards. Exhibit 11 on page 20 shows that the proportion of declined or canceled initial GA awards in fiscal 2025 increased significantly compared to fiscal 2023 or 2024, and the proportion of awards declined or canceled remains elevated in fiscal 2026 relative to the first 2 years shown. MHEC should discuss the reasons for increases in the share of declined and canceled awards. Exhibit 12 on page 21 shows the credit completion outcomes for EEA recipients in the 2024-25 academic year. Almost 50% completed 30 or more credits, 28% completed 24 to 29 credits, and 22% completed less than 24 credits. Exhibit 13 on page 22 details the last 4 years of credit completion outcomes for EEA recipients. The proportion of recipients completing 30 or more credits increased by 13.6 percentage points to 48.6% in the 2024-25 academic year compared to the prior year, which is the highest level in the period shown. MHEC should discuss factors leading to more EEA recipients taking 30 or more credits. As seen in Exhibit 14 on page 23, there's a stark difference between the percentage of recipients at community colleges who become ineligible for EEA renewals and recipients at 4-year institutions, with ineligibility rates ranging from 65 to 79.4% for community college students. Exhibit 15 on page 24 displays the percentage of EEA recipients who completed less than 30 credits and 30 or more credits during their second academic year, along with the percentage of these students who obtained a degree within the standard time frame, which is 4 years for public 4-year and independent institutions and 2 years for community colleges. The disparity between 4-year institutions and community colleges is clear yet again as it pertains to the percentage of students completing less than 30 credits. The Department of Legislative Services recommends adopting committee narrative requesting that MHEC submit a report on the cost to implement lower credit requirements for community college students. Exhibit 16 on page 26 shows the number of recipients and the average award for the various financial aid programs. MHEC reported a decrease of 8.6%, or 4,293, in the total number of recipients between fiscal 2024 and 2025, which was driven by fewer EA recipients due to initial awards not being made. This decrease was partially offset by increases in the number of recipients in the unique population, GA, and community college promise scholarship programs. Moving to page 28, there are 3 proposed general fund negative deficiencies for the programs listed in the bullet points, and 1 special fund deficiency for the teacher development and retention program, which is just a fund swap. MHEC should state what the current fund balance is for the teacher development and retention program and its anticipated fiscal 2026 closing balance. Exhibit 16 on page 29 displays the overview of spending for student financial assistance and the allowance. The overwhelming majority is for need-based aid, followed by career-based aid and legislative scholarships. Exhibit 18 on page 30 lists the year-over-year changes in the allowance compared to the working appropriation. The primary change is an increase of $4 million for the Teaching Fellows for Maryland Scholarship due to it being funded at its statutory level after a one-time reduction of $4 million in fiscal 2026. Flipping to the Budget Reconciliation and Financing Act discussion on page 31, Exhibit 19 shows that after significant underspending in the Community College Promise Scholarship from fiscal 2022 to 24, spending increased substantially in fiscal 2025 due to more recipients. It should be noted that unused funding for this program gets transferred to the Need-Based Student Financial Assistance Fund. The fiscal 2026 and 2027 amounts are adjusted for proposed deficiencies and contingent reductions in the allowance, and they contain less funding than the amount used in fiscal 2025. DLS requests that MHEC clarify which amount was spent on this program in fiscal 2025. The BRFA of 2026 would permanently reduce the mandate for this program to $12.5 million, which is a decrease of $1 million compared to current law. MHEC should comment on how much funding has been awarded thus far in fiscal 2026 for Promise scholarships and when community colleges typically make these awards. Exhibit 20 on page 33 shows the amount of funding awarded and number of recipients for the Police and Probation Agent Scholarship Program and Loan Assistance Repayment Program, or LARP. Unused funds are transferred to the Need-Based Student Financial Assistance Fund from both of these programs. The number of scholarship recipients has increased in each year, but there was only 1 recipient in each of fiscal 2023 and 24 for the LARP, and no recipient in fiscal 2025. Since there was no recipient in fiscal 2025, MHEC should clarify why the full appropriation for the LARP was not transferred to the aforementioned fund if there were no recipients. Many adjustments were made to the LARP and scholarship program in recent years, as described in the paragraph at the bottom of page 33, but I want to highlight that the BRFA of 2026 permanently reduces the mandates for both programs from $2 million to $500,000 each beginning in fiscal 2027. Our first issue begins on page 34. The Teaching Fellows for Maryland Scholarship covers 100% of tuition, fees, and room and board costs for students attending public higher education institutions, with the requirement that recipients work at a school in the state after graduation that has at least 50% of its students eligible for free or reduced price meals. And there are some caveats for students attending private institutions which are listed. As shown in Exhibit 21 on page 35, since the scholarship began in fiscal 2022, about 30% of all funding in the period shown was unused and transferred to the Need-Based Student Financial Assistance Fund. However, the proportion of funding used increased each year after fiscal 2023 as the number of recipients increased. The scholarships are awarded by individual institutions, frequently in April and May when students are accepted, and MHEC reimburses the institutions later. For the 2025-26 academic year, many students had already been notified of their Teaching Fellows for Maryland scholarship amount when MHEC informed the institutions in July 2025 that students living off campus were no longer eligible to have their room and board covered under the scholarship. Following this guidance, some institutions reduced the awards for students who were living off campus, while others did not. Then, after the scholarship funds had already been removed for some students, MHEC partially reversed its decision in October 2025 and determined that off-campus students were eligible to have their housing costs covered, but not board costs. The varying guidance provided by the agency created disruptions to recipients of the scholarship. MHEC should discuss the reasons for the varying guidance on eligibility and award amounts and how it will work to ensure that guidance is provided to institutions in advance of awarding scholarships moving forward. During the September 15th, 2025 Segmental Advisory Council meeting, MHEC stated that there were 8 renewals for the Teaching Fellows for Maryland Scholarship who were ready to be awarded but were placed on the wait list. Per the Code of Maryland regulations, priority shall be given to applicants who are renewing an award under this program. MHEC should discuss why these 8 eligible renewals were placed on the wait list. Moving to the GA awards on page 36. In September 2025, MHEC reported that 457 students were awarded the GA grant for the 2025-26 academic year who may not have been eligible for it, which the agency attributed to an error by the vendor for its scholarship system known as MD-CAPS. In a separate incident, MHEC initially denied 172 students for the GA grant who were actually eligible, but has since rectified the situation. DLS recommends restricting funds pending a report on the errors in the GA program and changes made to the Teaching Fellows for Maryland Scholarship Program. The Need-Based Student Financial Assistance Fund, which will generally be referred to as just the fund for the rest of the presentation, is a non-lapsing special fund that was created to receive unused scholarships at the close of each fiscal year, which are then used for need-based awards and certain unique population awards. Exhibit 22 lists the transfers into and out of the fund. Significant closing balances accumulated as seen in the final row, reaching $65.7 million in fiscal 24 and $34.5 million in fiscal 25. The amount transferred into the fund in fiscal 2025 was only $10.1 million, which is on par with the level seen in fiscal 2022, after fiscal 23 and 24 saw between $35 and $40.7 million transferred in. While the fiscal 2026 closing balance for the fund will not be known until after the fiscal year concludes, it is unlikely that the balance will be sufficient to provide the level of special funds included in the fiscal 2027 allowance for the EEA program, which is $34.2 million. Considering that some programs had their funding reduced in fiscal 2026, 3 programs have their funding contingently reduced in the allowance, and other programs that previously transferred sizable balances to the fund are experiencing higher utilization. For example, the Promise Scholarship, DLS estimates about $9 million will be transferred into the fund in fiscal 2026. Since the fiscal 2026 closing balance is equivalent to the fiscal 2027 opening balance, these estimates show an opening balance of $18.8 million in fiscal 27. In order for the fund to reach the $34.2 million level included in the allowance, $15.4 million would need to be transferred into the fund, which seems unlikely based on recent program utilization trends and reduced mandated appropriations for certain programs. MHEC should discuss if the fund's appropriation included in the allowance for the EEA program is realistic given how much would need to be transferred into the fund to reach that level. Flipping to page 38 now, while eligibility for many financial aid programs is income-based, there are programs that do not use income to determine eligibility, but are deposited into the fund, which are listed in the bullet points. In fiscal 2025, $2.9 million was transferred from these programs into the fund. To limit the accumulation of balance in the fund and provide additional revenue to the general fund and the Blueprint Fund, DLS recommends sweeping unused appropriations for non-income-based financial assistance awards that are supported by the general fund back to the general fund instead of the need-based student financial assistance fund, and sending unused funds from the Teaching Fellow Scholarship back to the Blueprint Fund, which is where the appropriation originates from. Issue 3 begins on page 39 and involves audit findings covering the period beginning April 1st, 2020 and ending November 30th, 2023 by the Office of Legislative Audits, or OLA. MHEC awards certain career-based financial aid that requires fulfillment of a service obligation by working in a certain field. The audit found that MHEC did not verify employment in a timely manner, nor did it refer non-compliers to the Central Collections Unit in a timely manner, and OLA noted that similar issues have been present in every audit since calendar 2010. MHEC attributed these findings to staffing problems and noted that it has since cleared the backlog of cases to verify through fiscal 2023. OLA also reported that MHEC had not completed reconciliations of financial aid awards recorded in its MD-CAP system to awards recorded in the state's accounting records since fiscal 2021. DLS recommends restricting funds pending a report on the status of changes implemented to correct the audit findings. The list of all the recommended actions begins on page 41, and with that, I conclude my presentation and can take any questions.
Thank you very much. Okay, Dr. Rai.
Thank you, Chair King and members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to respond to the analysis that was just presented, and I also want to thank DLS staff for their really thorough review. MHEC has submitted detailed written testimony that thoroughly responds to each point. For transparency, I have also submitted a letter with written testimony outlining 2 programmatic items not included in the analysis: the Student Loan Debt Relief Tax Credit Program and Edward Conroy and Jean Cryer Memorial Fellowship Program, and the corrective actions agency is taking to address them. I'm joined today with Deputy Secretary Elena Quiroz-Lewanis and Executive Director of the Office of Student Financial Assistance, Al Dorset, and members of our team who are here to help address your question. I'm going to keep my comments very, very brief, given the observations from analysts and opportunity to respond to them. I just wanted to share some data with you. Within the past 3 years, MHAC has awarded more than 150,000 students over $550 million in scholarships and grants. During 2025 alone, OSPA staff handled 36,681 routed calls, representing more than 2,500 hours of direct student assistance to Maryland students and families. Turning to the analysis, my team and I plan to expand and respond to the analysis in the order they raise. Please let us know if the committee would prefer this, or if there is any item that you would like us to specifically address first.
Yeah, we kind of think you should go line by line.
Line by line. Thank you. So let's starting with the FAFSA growth. As you know, as analysts pointed out, FAFSA filings have increased significantly. Maryland has seen about 64% increase in FAFSA filings between 2021-2022 and 2025 to 2026 award period. This simplification is because of coordinated statewide outreach led by MHAC and Maryland State Department of Education. MHAC has supported this growth by hosting statewide FAFSA town halls and coordinated messages with the school systems and higher education institutions across the state. Through the FAFSA completion initiative, Maryland high schools receive real-time FAFSA completion data, allowing counselors to identify students who still need assistance in submitting their applications. We will continue to work closely with MSDE, school districts, and higher education partners to strengthen outreach efforts and reduce geographic disparities in FAFSA completions across the Maryland. At this point, I'm going to invite Al Dorset, Executive Director of OSPA.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, committee members. In regards to the Guaranteed Access Grant on page 13, the apparent decline in initial Guaranteed Access Awards for FY26 reflects differences in application deadlines and award timing rather than reduced demand or eligibility. FY26 data are still preliminary and awards continue to be processed. Comparisons to FY25 should be viewed cautiously because last year's application deadline was extended to June 1st due to the different federal FAFSA delays, giving applicants additional 3 months to complete applications. For FY26, the deadline returned to the standard March 1st, shortening the application window and affecting year-to-date totals. Importantly, applications and awards in FY26 remain higher than FY24 levels, indicating continued growth in program participation. Final FY26 totals will be known once the awarding cycle is complete. And I'll take any questions before I move over to the next.
Questions? No, you can keep going.
In regards to the Educational Access Grant on page 16, the Guaranteed Access Grant now accounts for a growing share of funding within the Educational Excellence Awards program, largely due to GA eligibility expansion under HB 923 in 2023. Because GA awards are statutory prioritized and renewal awards must be funded first, available funding has been fully committed to GA awards and EA renewals, leaving insufficient resources to issue new EA initial awards in the past 2 fiscal years. This reflects a structural issue identified in the 2022 Department of Legislative Services evaluation, where GA and EA share a single appropriation pool, meaning increases in GA utilization reduce available EA awards. Absent additional funding or statutory changes, the EA grant will continue to operate as a renewal-only program. MHEC therefore recommends partnering with the General Assembly to commission a comprehensive independent review of Maryland's financial aid system to evaluate program structure, funding sustainability, and long-term policy options. In regards to the EA renewals, the way that the system works is that every student, as we get an application, goes on a wait list. Students are removed off the wait list as we start awarding individuals. With us looking at GA students first, we're reporting to the commission that we are awarding GA students and letting them know how many EA renewals were ready to be awarded on the wait list. We therefore, after awarded EA renewals, just as them being on the place for us to move forward and award them. I'll take any questions if you have any before I move forward.
I don't see any. Go ahead.
In regards to the award timeline and process measures, overall GA Access award activity has increased over the past 3 academic years following the eligibility expansion under House Bill 923, 2023. The legislation removed the GPA requirement, expanded the age limit, and extended the time frame to receive the scholarship after high school graduation, significantly increasing the number of Maryland residents identified as eligible. Because GA eligibility is triggered through FAFSA completion rather than a separate state application, many individuals, including upperclassmen, students planning to attend an out-of-state institution, are automatically identified as eligible even if they do not attend to use the award. As a result, the increase in declined or canceled awards reflects a broader eligibility pool and expanded access rather than a decline in program effectiveness.
Keep going.
I will now pass it over to our Deputy Secretary, Ms. Elena.
Hi, good afternoon. Buenas tardes, Madam Chair and committee members. For the record, I'm Elena Quiroz-Lavanes, the Deputy Secretary at the Maryland Higher Education Commission. Thank you to Mr. David Proper for his analysis and your partnership during the review process. Today, I will focus on 2 interconnected areas, the credit completion trends on page 22 and the community college credit study on page 25. Building on our collaboration since the Office of Program Evaluation and Government Accountability December 2022 evaluation of the Office of Student Financial Assistance, we are deeply committed to partnering with members of the General Assembly on these recommendations. Under current law, Educational Excellence Award recipients, EEA recipients, must complete 30 credits by the end of their second academic year to retain their full award. DLS noted a recent increase in students meeting this requirement. This positive trend is primarily due to 2 administrative improvements. The first is stronger, earlier communication with students and financial aid offices about these requirements, and the second is a corrected reporting methodology that now exclusively measures active award recipients, vastly improving our data's accuracy. While this overall trend is encouraging, a universal 30-credit policy disproportionately impacts contemporary learners. Prior MHEC research from our Office of Research and Policy Analysis clearly shows that community college students typically complete fewer credits annually, which severely increases their risk of losing this crucial state aid. Because of these distinct enrollment patterns, MHEC enthusiastically supports the committee's request to study lower credit completion thresholds for community college students. To ensure the most accurate fiscal modeling and institutional data reconciliation for this study, we respectfully request extending the report submission deadline to December 15th, 2026. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, keep going.
I'll now pass it back to my colleague, Mr. Dorsett.
Thank you, and I forgot, I do want to thank David for his analysis. He worked very well with us to get this done in a short time, so I appreciate you. In response to page 28, proposed deficiency, the Teacher Development and Retention Program currently has a fund balance of $9.9 million and is projected to close FY26 with approximately $9 million after anticipated awards and program expenditures are processed through the academic year. MHEC will continue to monitor fund actively to ensure alignment with appropriations and statutory requirements. While MHEC has conducted outreach to eligible institutions, participation has been limited, and the Commission will continue engagement efforts to provide technical assistance to encourage broader institution participation. If there are no questions, I will move forward. On page 31, The difference between the 10.4 million recorded MD caps and the 12.9 million reported by institutions reflects the structure and reconciliation process of the Community College Promise Scholarship, which is statutory designed as a last dollar award. Because Promise funding is calculated only after Pell Grant, state aid, and institutional scholarships are applied, award amounts may change throughout the academic year as students receive additional aid, adjust enrollment, or drop courses. In addition, the program's decentralized funding model, where funds are distributed directly to community colleges, means institutional reports may reflect preliminary spending prior to final reconciliation. The 10.4 million figure represents actual figure expenditures in MD caps, and MHEC is continuing to work with institutions to finalize FY25 reconciliations to establish the final expenditure baseline. No questions, I will move forward. In regards to page 32, the Community College Promise Scholarship operates under a decentralized model, meaning funds are distributed directly to community colleges, which determine final award amounts and report them to the state through MD caps, the Maryland College Aid Processing System. The program is also structured as a statutory last dollar award, meaning promise funding is calculated only after all financial aid, including Pell Grant, state aid, and institutional scholarships, has been finalized. As a result, a promise award is considered awarded only after a student's full financial aid package and final enrollment census are confirmed, which naturally places awarding and reporting later in the academic year. For FY26, MHEP has already dispersed half of the annual promise allocation to community colleges and is preparing to disperse the second based off the proposed FY26 budget adjustments as early as March. Approximately $6 million in awards has been reported in MD caps, which is consistent with timing of a last dollar program. Reporting will increase as institutions finalize spring aid packages and enrollment counts. Colleges have until June 26 to complete reporting, with final fiscal reconciliation occurring in July 2026, when the final state expenditure total will be known.
Senator Bailey, did you want to ask questions here about the LARP for the police officers?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to just get some follow-up on that program. I see the chart where it says that we have increased up to 64 people in there, but I'd like to know how many the engagement and how that program looks like it's going to go in it. And when you make your response, if you could also talk about your website and just your interaction, because I know, there was issues that we dealt with last year where there was no website, it wasn't up to date, there was no way to, but I know that you have done things this year to try to increase, right, that engagement. Secretary came to my local office, his music came, and I know that we're working on that. And it was such a big deal, right? It was disappointing to not see that the secretary was supporting that initiative that we felt was such a strong thing. But now that it's starting to go, we're going to obviously have to work to get some money back in there. But I would like to find out if there's only one person taking advantage of the LARP, then maybe we move that money.
So before Megan gives details, Senator, first, thank you for hosting me in your office. Cookies were really, really good. I really enjoyed that. And thank you for your guidance. Your guidance was very helpful to Megan and all of us, and how to reach out to police unions, police training institutes, and other areas. So Megan, go ahead and give the update.
Absolutely. So once I began in September, I took and did an evaluation of everything, promotional materials, who we've already outreached, which included there were several different Gov delivery emails that went out before I had started in September. So once I started in September, I also evaluated those promotional materials and met with Maryland State Police, some sergeants within their units, and said what works best for police officers and also probation agents. They went through kind of what they would like to see, what's easy and accessible for them, and essentially redid our promotional materials. So we have 4 new promotional materials. That includes a sheet tells you the do's and the don'ts when you fill out the application and the details of the application, including what type of materials are needed to go in with your application. It also includes 2 very easy to read and accessible kind of social media related items where we have shared them. They've gone out with Maryland State Police newsletters. We've also sent them to our list server of over 140 different officers, including county, local, and state. I have also gone and presented to the state FOP with the different county presidents with them, shared a presentation which included both the scholarship and the LARP. Lots of engagement there and inviting us to come to their local chapters, asking us to share, also sharing those promotional materials with them, and have definitely seen an uptake in engagement. I receive a phone call from a police officer at least twice a week, going through and confirming, am I good to go? I want to submit my application. Is there anything else I could be missing? Or just telling me they have submitted their application. So we have definitely ramped up our engagement there and seeing the impact on our side of the engagement with the police scholarship.
Were you successful at all in bridging a relationship with the Maryland Police Training and Standards
So
Commission?
I have reached out to them, and we are working with them to confirm what a presentation could look like the length, what should be included, what shouldn't be included, to make sure. And I did that right after we had met with you in December.
And they were receptive?
Yes.
Because every police officer, just very similar to teachers,
Right.
have to go through a training program every year. So I thought if we could have that information there for them
Right.
when they go through their training seminar,
Absolutely.
then that way, they would know what is available.
Absolutely.
Are you all familiar? We have a bill in right now to expand
Yes.
and
Correctional
to
officers.
include. And I think Triple E just voted on it, so we'll probably see it on the floor next week.
Yes.
So-
And we, based on engagement of folks who have reached out to us, we've also seen the interest there. And so we're very excited if correctional officers will be able to be included here to expand access.
So what do you think what's going to happen with this number on the chart? I mean, based on your engagement. I mean, when you're talking here, we don't want to arbitrarily put just money there, but we want to figure out what's a realistic situation.
I can't speak specifically to what it could increase to, but I'm hoping, and the goal here with all of our engagement is that does in fact we see an increase, because we are also collaborating with community colleges, MSDE, to also try to get in the early aspect, but not just community college, but also our 4-year institutions as well. Because if we, for example, students who are in criminal justice, but also high school graduates interested in going into this field, if they know about it sooner, does that impact their decision? And can we also get to them sooner to add into this, to get access to the scholarship money?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay.
Just real quick, in regards to I believe also part of that was the 200 or the transfer of funds. Just part of that, there were 2 students at the end of FY25 who had identified that they wanted to apply for the scholarship, said they were, or the loan repayment program said they were having some implications. So we actually accrued $200,000 to hold for those individuals while we closed out FY25. Unfortunately, those individuals decided they were just going to wait. So those funds will be transferred into the need-based moving forward. But that's why the full amount was not transferred over initially. In regards to questions on page, or recommendations on page 35 to 36, and the guidance on the awarding of scholarships. MHEC sincerely apologizes to our institution partners for confusion caused by deferring guidance on eligibility and award amounts for the Teaching Fellow Scholarship. One thing, if I may make, or to clarify, when we made our guidance to individuals, we actually we indicated to individuals that the housing for students not living on campus would not be available moving forward, but we also did at the same time honor any student that was already awarded with funds for off-campus housing. So it wasn't a change later on. We honored at the same time individuals that were eligible funds for off-campus housing. The disruption occurred as the program faced significant budget reductions while applications increased, creating funding pressures during an active award cycle. Because MHEC begins awarding scholarships before the state budget is finalized in order to provide timely notifications to students, adjustments sometimes need to occur once final appropriations are known. In an effort to stretch limited funding and serve as many applicants as possible, MHEC initially issued guidance indicating that off-campus students would no longer receive room and board coverage. However, the Office of Attorney General later issued formal guidance clarifying that statute requires room and board to equal 100% of the residents of undergraduate amount regardless of the housing status, and that MHEC does not have the statutory authority to eliminate or reduce this component through regulation even during fiscal constraints. So initially there were regulations. I guess it would be in prior or past during prior groups or prior administration, sorry, thank you, that's what I was looking for, that indicated that off-campus housing would be available based off available funding. We reached out to our legal to get advice on that, to make sure that we were okay moving forward when we decreased that housing, based off their interpretation of those regulations. That's where they agreed with us and supported us to make that change. It was later on where there was a discussion with the OAG's office between USM's legal and our legal that the OAG's office made us aware that that regulation should have never been passed. So that's where we're moving forward to correct that so that we can move forward and make sure that everyone is advised early as possible. And MHEC is strengthening its internal planning and communication by issuing formal written guidance before awards begin to align with our operations as we move forward.
Let me stop you right there for a second. Senator Bailey.
I just wanted to know how much money that was. Total.
The difference of the housing and the,
Yep.
we're still reconciling that because we are still reinstating individuals' awards for the housing. So we are actually going back to individuals that are living off campus and working with the institutions to put that money back there.
Do we have an idea? I mean, how much money we're talking?
So it's still within the budget because we're not going over the 14 million that we've been approved for.
Okay.
We're not awarding any new students. As students' awards are canceling, we're looking at the aspect of every time doing readjustments to other students. We can give you what students we have remaining and what the difference is between what they received and their off-campus housing that we're readjusting. So we can provide you with that later on if you like that.
So we can provide you data on how many students were not getting a cost of housing, and then how many we have given them back.
If you
and how
could
many
just,
remain.
send us some answers on that, we appreciate it. Can you talk a little bit about the problem with the what was it called? The promise scholarships, that there's, from what we understand, money has been spent ahead of time because you got behind, so you've spent like next year's funds. Can you talk about that a little bit?
You're talking about Conroy and Cryer.
Yeah, can you tell?
Sure. So to clarify, I believe we're talking about the Conroy and Cryer Scholarship Program.
Is that right? We think
I'm
so.
happy to go ahead and talk about
Go ahead.
Conroy and Cryer. So the Conroy and Cryer Scholarship Program is unique among MHEC's 27 scholarship programs in our financial aid portfolio. Rather than the agency determine student eligibility and make awards to cover the entirety of the school year, institutions determine eligibility of students and make awards to students on a semester basis, and then request reimbursement for the number of students they enrolled under the Conroy Cryer Scholarship Program. This practice leaves the agency without the knowledge of how much funding is anticipated to be requested until initial fall reimbursement requests are received, and the agency can estimate how many reimbursements will be made in the spring. Historically, the program has been oversubscribed with more reimbursement requests than available funds. With new internal controls placed into effect to manage programs more effectively, we identified that institutional reimbursement requests were retroactively being satisfied using future funding allocations, placing the agency in a perpetual state of not having enough funding to pay out the reimbursement requests in a given year. For FY26, MHEC has already paid out the full $7 million appropriated in reimbursements for the fall semester, but still has unpaid reimbursement requests of $1.8 million for the fall and an estimated $8 million in reimbursement requests coming for the spring semester, a total of $9.8 million in unaccounted for obligations. To ensure that scholarship students who are attending the institutions are not harmed as a result of administrative challenges with the program, we will pay out the final $9.8 million in reimbursement requests from the Need-Based Student Financial Assistance Fund. We recognize that this practice is not sustainable, and we are committed to working with the General Assembly on statutory reforms to the program to alleviate the administrative challenges and ensure the program does not exceed its yearly budget allocation. We are committed as an agency to ensuring equitable access to affordable, high-quality post-secondary education for all Marylanders. Responsible fiscal oversight and statutory alignment are central to our mission.
Thank you. You know, I've been here a lot of years, and I've been on the Budget Committee for a lot of years, and every single year it's MHEC that has the problems. And somehow or another, we have to clean this up. We have to clean up the agency. And we say it about every year that we've got to clean up and make things right, and it hasn't happened. So I'm hoping that we can find a way. And when there's a problem that comes up and you don't have enough money for a program, you need to let us know, rather than just once a year saying, whoops, we didn't have it. We have to know about it so that we can work with you to try and solve some of this. But before I leave this legislature, whenever that is, I'm going to clean up MHEC. So
Madam Chair,
one way or another, we're going to make it happen.
if I may, I really appreciate that, and I see that as an invitation to work together.
Thank you.
Under Secretary Rye, we've now restructured the organization. So the Office of Student Financial Assistance now falls under the portfolio of the Deputy Secretary. That's also the same for Finance and Administration. It is for that reason, when Mr. Dorsett brought this issue to my attention, that we immediately reached out to try to rectify. At the same time, we want to work together to make sure that the statute doesn't permit this to continue happening year after year.
I sure appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Bailey?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate that guidance that you're providing. And I hope you all understand just the invitation that the chair has given you, and you take heed to it and follow along. And I will say, you came and visited me, and we worked on these police scholarships, and we saw a turnaround. Now, the other thing is, I'm not going to ask this question because I think this thing could go off the rails. But I would just say that when you're asked a question about, proper authorization and funding, and everybody looks at each other, right? It would definitely bring question to the fact that this probably happened other times, right? So please take heed and follow Madam Chair's direction, and so we can try to clean this up, because right now it's broken.
One thing that I can offer to the committee is at Secretary Rye's direction, we're working to develop standard operating procedures for every single task that is in the agency. By the time we come to you next year, My commitment to you is that we will have standard operating procedures for everything under financial aid, and I know that Mr. Dorsett is already actively working to make sure that that is in place.
Okay, and you'll be up to date on all your reports?
100% under Ms.
Okay,
Music's
thank
leadership
you.
as well.
All right, thank you. All right, I think we're finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Wright, I hope you're still speaking to me. Making you wait all afternoon, I'm so sorry. Come on up, the Maryland State Department of Education funding for educational organizations. Natalie Andrade is our analyst. Dr. Wright, bring whoever you need up there. Let me check, just to make sure. What do we? You're on the list, come on up. I missed you, but I did. Let's see, oh, yep. Come on up, I'm sorry, Dr. Wright.
No problem.
Okay, so we have Joseph Fisher, Jill Simmons, Elena, we don't have Elena? Okay. Anybody else from MHEC that needs to speak? Just, okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Joe Fisher, Chair of Maryland Alliance for College Affordability and Equity, and founder of and chair of First Generation College Bound. I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak with you regarding our coalition, and the support for the Next Generation Scholars in Higher Education Outreach and College Access Program. I also want to thank the Maryland Higher Education Commission and the Office of Student Financial Assistance. They have been a great partner in connecting the students we serve who assist with need-based and other financial aid opportunities. Matter of fact, I've been leveraging these resources that has helped establish the pipeline for students of poverty to attend college and graduate. I'm here today to urge you to support your support for the Next Generation Scholars in Higher Education Outreach and College Access Program, and to respectfully request additional funding to fully fund our Maryland Alliance organizations at their previously funded levels in both programs. As applicants of these programs have increased, funding for eligible coalitions, organizations has declined as funds are spread across more organizations. NGS funding for eligible Maryland Alliance organizations has declined approximately $200,000, and the Higher Education Outreach Program funding has declined by approximately $250,000. Funding for First Generation College Bound has declined by approximately $70,000 for the current year. This directly affects our services to students as we strive to sustain and retain staff providing these services, sustaining our pipeline.
Okay.
I think you know Alonzo Washington.
Can you wrap it up, please?
Yes. Started our program in 8th grade, and we were able to track him all the way through, which is what we do, providing these students, removing barriers. So today I ask you to respect. I thank you for your time and respectfully request an additional funding for these programs to enable our organizations to continue doing the great work to support the state.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jill Simmons, and I'm here representing Collegiate Directions. Founded in 2005 and based in Montgomery County, Collegiate Directions is a nonprofit organization committed to closing the education, achievement, and opportunity gaps for students who are first in their families to attend college and are from households of limited financial means. State funding through the Higher Education Outreach and College Access Program administered by the Maryland Higher Education Commission has been critical to the success of our mission and the expansion of our scholars and school support programs. Over 60% of the schools we serve through our Scholars Program have an effective farms rate of 55% or higher, and the average CDI scholar household income, regardless of high school, is $41,019. Funding ensures that we can recruit and support bright and talented students. 90% of CDI scholars complete college, compared to 16% national average for their peers. With funding from the Higher Education Outreach and College Access Program during the 24-25 school year, school support provided financial aid training to counselors in 19 Montgomery County public high schools who collectively served approximately 20,000 11th and 12th grade students. FAFSA completion rates at our partner schools typically outpace national and state averages. We also served 1,100 students and families from 16 high schools across Montgomery County in 2025 through a combination of college process and financial aid workshops, application completion events, and one-on-one help sessions. A 51% reduction in our funding for 2026 has reduced our capacity to serve students who deserve access to high-quality supports. Demand for one-on-one support and workshops has increased, but funding has not kept pace. Supporting our students demands a high level of time and expertise, and although we leverage technology to perform much of our outreach, there is no substitute for qualified staff to help the students and families we serve navigate the college process. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else that needed to testify for MPEC? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Wright, come on up.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. My name is Natalie Andrade, and I'm here with the Department of Legislative Services to present the fiscal 27 allowance for the Maryland State Department of Education funding for educational organizations. On page 1 of the analysis, you can see that the fiscal 27 allowance decreases by $1.6 million, or 2.8%, to $56.5 million compared to the fiscal 26 working appropriation. On page 3 begins the performance analysis. Exhibit 1 on page 4 shows post-graduation outcomes for students at the Maryland School for the Blind from fiscal 2021 through 2025. Although all the students graduated during this period, the distribution of post-graduation outcomes varied. In fiscal 2025, 45% of graduates pursued a school or training, 37% entered day or residential programs, and 18% were employed. Exhibit 2 on page 5 shows performance measures for blind industries and services of Maryland. The organization aims to provide at least 45,540 hours of training annually to individuals who are blind or have low vision. Training hours increased to 48,349 in fiscal 2024 and declined slightly to 47,995 in fiscal 2025, but remain above the annual goal. During fiscal 2024 and 2025, 90% of participants achieved their independent living goals. At the bottom of page 5, there is a discussion of fiscal 2026 legislative acts. Section 21 of the fiscal 2026 budget bill added $2.4 million in general funds within the funding for educational organization budget for state-aided institutions. On page 7, Exhibit 3 shows the distribution of the fiscal 27 allowance. Of the $56.5 million total, $39 million, or about 69%, consists of general funds, and $17.5 million, or 31%, consists of special funds. The largest share of funding supports the Maryland School for the Blind at $31.7 million, followed by $9 million for the Boost program and $6 million for the Aid to Non-Public Schools program. On page 8, Exhibit 4 shows that the fiscal 27 allowance includes a net decrease of $1.6 million compared to the fiscal 2026 working appropriation. This reflects a reduction of $2.4 million in state-aided institution funding, partially offset by an increase of $780,000 for the Maryland School for the Blind. On page 9, Exhibit 5 presents the enrollment at the Maryland School for the Blind. For school year 2026 and 2027, the school projects a total enrollment of 523 students, including school-age students, outreach students, and early intervention students. For formula funding purposes, the enrollment count is 362 students. In a 2023 audit of the school's enrollment, MSB discovered data missing in its monthly count of outreach students in the 2021-2022 school year. Due to methodology by which MSB's enrollment for formula funding is calculated over 6 years, this undercount in outreach student enrollment in fiscal 2022 impacts MSB's formula funding through fiscal 2027. MSB should quantify the annual impact of the fiscal 2022 outreach student undercount on MSB's formula funding through fiscal 2027. On page 11, Exhibit 6 shows MSB's revenues and expenditures from fiscal 2023 through the fiscal 2027 estimate. MSB projects a fiscal 2027 revenues of approximately $45.6 million and expenses of $52 million, including depreciation. Excluding depreciation, expenses are estimated at $49.9 million. After accounting for the prior year fund balance, MSB projects a cash balance of approximately $15.7 million at the end of fiscal 2027. On page 12, Exhibit 7 shows MSB's expenditures by category. Personnel costs represent the largest share of spending and are projected to increase by approximately $2.6 million or 7% from fiscal 2026 to fiscal 2027. So MSB should comment on the reasons for the steep rise in personnel costs since fiscal 2025. Exhibit 8 on pages 13 through 15 shows state-aided institutions funding. In the fiscal 2027 allowance, 57 nonprofit organizations received grants totaling approximately $6.7 million to support educational programming across the state. Most grantees receive level funding. However, overall funding for state-aided institutions declines because several organizations that receive one-time legislative funding in fiscal 2026 do not receive that funding again in fiscal 2027. Issue number 1 begins on page 16 and discusses the BOOST program, which provides scholarships to students from low-income families to attend non-public schools. The fiscal 27 allowance includes $9 million for the program, which is level with the fiscal 26 working appropriation. Exhibit 9 on page 17 shows the BOOST program appropriation and fund balance in fiscal 2026. The program had $9.7 million available for awards, including funds carried over from the prior year. The approximately $9.5 million in scholarships were accepted, leaving a remaining balance of about $233,000. Exhibit 10 on page 18 shows the distribution of BOOST awards. In fiscal 2026, 2,796 students received approximately $9.5 million in scholarships. Awards were distributed across students attending both public and non-public schools and included additional awards for high school students and students with special education needs. Exhibit 11 presents assessment results for BOOST and non-BOOST students. BOOST students score below non-BOOST students by an average of 13 percentage points across English, language arts, mathematics, and science. MSDE should comment on why special education awards did not meet the 617,522 legislative directive and the efforts of both schools to close the gap between BOOST and non-BOOST students on standardized assessments. Finally, on page 20 begins the operating recommended actions. The first recommended action restores the language requiring additional awards for students with special needs and requiring MSDE to report on BOOST program participation and outcomes by January 15, 2027. The second recommended action makes technical corrections to the BOOST program eligibility language in the budget bill. And with that, I conclude my presentation.
Nice job. Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you. It's good to see you feeling better, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I'm Carrie Wright, State Superintendent of Schools. With me today is Krishna Chulur, our Chief Operating Officer, and Donna Gunning, our Chief Financial Officer. I want to thank you for all your hard work, and I certainly want to thank you, Natalie, for your excellent analysis of our budget. So thank you for that. Representatives from the Maryland School of the Blind are here and will present their response to the analysis separately. The funding for educational organizations portion of MSDE's budget provides valuable services to Maryland's children. The state-aided institutions provide experiential learning opportunities for economically disadvantaged children and experiences that these children would not have without these organizations. The Broadening Options and Opportunities for Students Today, or BOOST program, provides scholarships to economically disadvantaged students to attend participating non-public schools. The MSDE team works diligently to implement these programs, serving schools, students, and families across the state. We're grateful for the partnerships with these organizations, and we truly appreciate the support of the General Assembly. I'm going to turn it over now to Krishna Chulur, who will share the department's specific responses to the analysts' questions.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, committee members. For the record, I am Krishna Chulur, Chief Operating Officer for MSDE, with a summary of our responses to analysts' questions. Regarding the BOOST program, analyst asked two questions. First, regarding the awards for the special education, department would like to clarify that the actual amount awarded is less than the legislative amount due to parents who declined scholarships, schools that could not confirm a student was receiving special education services, and cases where students' total cost was less than the combined BOOST award and special education adjustments. Regarding the gap in performance among BOOST and non-BOOST students, this is not a metric that the department is required to collect and analyze. The operating budget language requires the schools to administer assessments and requires MSDE to collect the assessment data and report the results, which the department does. Regarding the changes to the language for the required annual report to the BOOST program, MSDE concurs with the analyst's recommendations. With that, MSDE team stands ready to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Okay, we have some witnesses here. Let's start with Mark Potter, Garrett O'Day, Sandy Tercios, Misael Canales, and Yasiera Cardenas. Okay, Mr. Potter.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, and good afternoon to the committee. This year marks the 50th anniversary of the Maryland Science Center and our service to the people of Maryland. As a private nonprofit, the Science Center must rely on public and private support, and no public entity has done more for us over these many years than the state of Maryland. This 50-year public-private partnership has afforded over 1 million Maryland students and teachers the opportunity to enjoy free field trips to the museum at the Inner Harbor and visits by Science Center staff to schools and community centers actively serving every county across the state. As we celebrate this golden anniversary, I just wanted to thank you for the critical state support over the years. As one of the original SAIs, together we have provided the citizens of Maryland with a world-class institution that after 5 decades continues to make science accessible, fun, and memorable for children, families, science enthusiasts, and educators who value the freedom to explore. Again, on behalf of the millions of Marylanders who have visited the Science Center or have been touched by our work over these 50 years, I thank you, Madam Chair, the senators here, and frankly, the senators before you, who over all these many years have supported this most successful public-private partnership. We look forward to the next 50 years of service to the people of Maryland. Let's science. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, who's next? Would you like to go? Oh, we love having a student.
Good afternoon. My name is Misael Calales, and I'm in 4th grade at St. John's in Angeles School.
Put the microphone over closer to us. There
I
you go.
have been
Might
here
be able to
since-
hear you.
My name is Misael Calales, and I'm in 4th grade. I'm at St. John's in Angeles School. I have been here since pre-K4. The Boost Scholarship has changed my life, and because of it, I could stay in the school. I love learning new things every day and keep reaching for my dreams. My parents work extremely hard, and Boost gives family like mine hope and chance success. I love learning, and I love going to school. And without Boost, my family might not able to stay here, and that will be very hard for me. This scholarship is more than money. It gives students the opportunity, stable, and a future we can dream about. Please continue funding the Boost Scholarship so students like me and so many families can keep learning, growing, and building a brighter future. Thank you.
Nice job. Thank you very much. Okay.
Good afternoon. I'm here to speak about the importance of Boost Scholarship. I'm a parent of 4, and 2 of my children have been attending St. John's Evangelist since pre-K. And because of school scholarships, my children can stay in school they love and continue to learn every day. Like every parent in this room, my children mean the world to me. All I want to give them is the best opportunities possible and a chance to build a better future. As a daughter of an immigrant parents, I saw how hard my parents worked to give us opportunities they never had. They did everything they could for us, but they did not always have the access to the same resources that many families have today. I know they would have been so grateful for a program like Boost Scholarship. Today, many families are still working just as hard and facing many barriers. Programs like Boost give families hope. They help parents like me keep our children in school where they can learn, grow, and feel supported. For families like mine, the Boost Scholarship is not just supported for families like mine, the Boost Scholarship is not just financial help. It's an opportunity to give our children the future that every parent hopes. Please continue to support and fully fund the Boost Scholarship. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for coming down. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody in the room. My name is Zaira Cardenas, and I just want to say I have 2 students who are benefit from the Boost Scholarship since they were pre-K 3. I want to express how important this program has been for my family and for many other families too. For my family, this scholarship has made a real difference. Without this support, and we have been very difficult for me to afford the tuitions for my children. Every child learning differently, and families should have the opportunity to choose the environment that works for the best for the children. Each children should have a safe, support, and motivated place to learn. Since these programs began, thousands of Maryland students from low-income families has been able to go to school that best fit their need. I just want to say thank you so much from my heart to support family like me and the student and the Maryland who really wants to grow up and be able to continue their educations. One of my daughters is right here.
Would you like to speak too?
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lorena Dominguez, and I'm a student who receives the Boost Scholarship. For my family, education has always been very important, but it hasn't always been easy to afford the opportunities we hoped for. Receiving the Boost Scholarship opened a door that once felt impossible for us. Because of Boost, I can attend a school where I feel safe, supported, and encouraged to become the best version of myself. Every day, I'm reminded that my future matters and I have the potential to achieve great things. This scholarship is not just financial help for my family. It's hope and opportunity. It's the reason I can dream about college and giving back to my community one day. Without Boost, my path would look very different. That's why I'm so grateful for all the leaders and supporters who make this program possible. Your support is changing lives, including mine and many others. Please continue to support Boost so that many more children like me can have the chance to learn, grow, and build a brighter future. Thank you for listening and believing in a student like me.
Thank you so much.
Oh my God.
And
Thank
this
you,
guy
Madam.
here on the end has been a champion for Boost for as long as I can remember. A true champion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senator Bailey and Senator Quarterman, for hearing us today. Even though it applies to myself, I've never been so thankful for that shot clock right there. So I've got a minute 50 here. We lost Rabbi Sadwin to Shabbat, but I'm speaking on behalf of both of us, too, for Maryland Cape. I'm Garrett O'Day, Deputy Director, Maryland Catholic Conference. The parents do the talking on Boost, of course, year after year, and we thank you so much for the program and hope you support the governor's funding so far for this year as put in the budget. I just wanted to, and I also want to thank Dr. Wright and Ms. Gunning, too, as well, for their work on this, administering this program and working with our parents and our organizations. So I just wanted to mention a couple of technical notes with regard to the DLS questions that were asked of MSDE. There is one thing in there that the budget secretary did sort of put in there regarding the blue ribbon assessment language. I think DLS recommended that they strike the language. It says blue ribbon assessment, but used for the 2024-25 school year. We would respectfully disagree with striking that part of it, and that was put in there for a reason, because right now the current administration took away the blue ribbon schools program from the U.S. Department of Education, and of course we've reinstated it at the state level. There's really not an assessment list right now, but the one we've been using is the blue ribbon language that lists out the blue ribbon assessment test. So that was put in there to hopefully continue to use the assessments that they've been using. And I just wanted to make a quick comment regarding the proficiency data, the gap there that they're talking about between the Boost students and non-Boost students. So this is apples and oranges, really. As I understand it, and, unless I'm wrong, schools self-report what they consider and self-determine what they consider proficient on the test. So if you have a particular math test, instead of setting the proficiency level at, say, 65, they may set it at 90. We don't know. So if you have 56% of kids that are proficient, but they're, the 90 is the threshold, for example, based on other standards, it really may be, 100% of them proficient. So we do hear year after year that the difference in their growth and students that receive Boost has been exponential, and they're doing very well. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else in the room that would like to testify this afternoon? Come on up. Thank you all for waiting so long this afternoon. I appreciate you being patient with me.
Well, Madam Chair, it's hard to follow kids and parents
That's
and to be
right.
the last person on the program. But I'm Rob Hare. I'm the superintendent at the Maryland School for the Blind. Thank you, everybody, for all of your support over the last few years. I'm going to just keep it to the questions that were in Ms. Andrade's wonderful report. Thank you for your insights and for helping us to look at this, at our budgets and the concerns that might be on your minds, and to help us, we'll provide clarifications wherever we can. First of all, I do want to just remind everybody that over the last 7 or 8 years, the progress that we've made at the school has just been incredible. We really are in a much more solid footing. The school has just turned around financially. The campus is beautiful, thanks to your support. It is just a different place. So regarding the questions in the analyst report, regarding the increase in personnel costs since 2025, I understand why this is a flagged issue. It's completely understandable. Part of it is the implementation of the pay plan legislation, which we had worked on for several years to make our salaries competitive with Baltimore County Public Schools. We were losing people. We had a high turnover rate. Our turnover rate is much better now. We were able, with what was noted in the report, the infusion of additional funds to help us implement the pay plan. Our staff are paid competitively, not exactly the same as Baltimore County, but competitively. And our turnover rate is much better than it used to be. And that is about 6% to implement those steps. We also have had some additional positions that were added to the budget over the last couple of years. We're keeping an eye on that. They are essential for student programs and IEP support and some operational, but we are definitely keeping an eye on any additions to our budget. So thank you for flagging that issue for us. Regarding the other question, the FY22 outreach count issue. If you remember, there was a discrepancy in the outreach counts that was discovered after the passing of our outreach director a couple of years ago that we had no idea was a concern. We submitted a report. Initially we reported immediately that there was we weren't able to determine what the numbers and the correct counts were after she passed away. We reported that right away, and we submitted a report to the legislature, and we also provided projections about what the potential impact would be in that report. But over the past couple of years, the state has essentially held us harmless. We did not see any impact. You kept our funding steady. So the answer to the question is there was no impact, thankfully. Thanks to all of you for making sure that we were not harmed, our programs, our services, our staff, and our students.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any questions?
I don't see any. I think we're good. Thank you. Well, the sad news, gentlemen, is that this is our last budget hearing for the year.